Welcome to Final 15, your brand new debate-based football show designed to bring discussions and original opinions and ideas from fans and all-round lovers of the game. The premise of the show is to debate topics with my guests for approximately 15 minutes, at which point the full-time whistle will blow, leaving you guys, the viewers at home, to either continue the discussion amongst your pals or to comment directly to us to allow us to respond to you. Now, my guest today is Shane. I'm your host, I'm Stephen. And to get you to know Shane a little bit better, I'm going to fire him some quick questions around football so you can understand sort of the type of football lover he is. So, off the cuff, who's your favourite player of all time?
Maradona.
Okay, it's hard to argue that. Your greatest goal of all time?
Maradona v England, 86. Not the handball, the dribble.
I was just about to say that.
No.
But classic that he did both of those in the same game. And what's your greatest football memory of all time?
First game I ever went to, Arsenal v Forest, 2 Ian Wright bangers, FA Cup.
I actually remember it clearly. Half volleys, right?
Yeah, definite.
Belters. So, viewers at home, mine was Alan Smith against Parma in Copenhagen when Arsenal won the Cup Winners' Cup. If you want to let us know what your favourite moment in football is as well, let us know. Be interesting to know how diverse that is. So, Shane, I gave you a bit of a heads up on what the topic is, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And so, if you're watching at home, what we're going to be covering today is, and what I really want to know is, how important is the League Cup today?
For me, speaking as a fan, I think Wenger and Klopp summed it up. Not Wenger, sorry, Ferguson and Klopp summed it up nicely when Klopp said, end of the day, it's a trophy and it's not something to be passed up at. And Ferguson said, Wembley is an occasion. For me, that's where I stand. It's a trophy. I want my team to win trophies. Simple.
It's hard to deny that with Ferguson saying something like that, but you know, despite it being a trophy, you know, if as an Arsenal fan, I'll throw the rod to you and say, if you win the League Cup for the next 5 years in a row and you win no other trophies, are you going to be happy? If you as a player, would you want to be joining the club that just wins the League Cup?
We've been Arsenal fans for God knows how long, and we've been living in the past 15 years winning FA Cups. We're not happy, but I'll tell you what, I'd be happy winning the FA Cup and the League Cup every season instead of traipsing over the line in 4th place, season in, season out, coming out of group stages of Champions League with nothing to show for it.
But as a world-class player, you know, out there, let's do the hypothetical. You know, you've got Club X and they win the League Cup, and you know, I won't even bring the FA Cup into it, but they win the League Cup year in, year out. You're a star playing for Dortmund or Napoli. Is that really going to entice you to want to come and play at a club that just wins the League Cup?
No, it's a good point. You're right. Wenger said it as well. I mean, it's not a trophy worth winning, because I'm sure it was him that said, you know, foreigners don't ask if you've won the League Cup. They're going to ask if you're playing in the Champions League. But it breeds success. You keep winning that year in, year out. Whether it's the FA Cup or League Cup, you're going to get some kind of confidence. You're going to build some kind of momentum. Winning is winning. You'll get fans on side. I'm not saying it's the greatest trophy to win, but it's something.
Okay. So, from my perspective, where you say, you know, it's not the greatest trophy, you know, you just said it's not the greatest trophy.
I'm not saying it's the best trophy in the world, but I want to win everything.
So as far as you're concerned, it's important just because you want to win everything.
I want to win a trophy. That's what football is.
But then, you know, we look at some managers today that are heralded as visionaries and transforming clubs, and you know, you look at the likes of Pochettino, when he turned around and he said, you know, an objective for me is to try and win the Premier League and the Champions League. And this is the bit that got me about his quote. He says he refers to those as real trophies. Now, me reading between the lines says that Pochettino's not giving
Well,
much respect to them.
I'm not interested in what Pochettino does. My view is it's a trophy. I'd rather win trophies season in, season out, like the FA Cup and League Cup, so I could lord it over Spurs when they win nothing. You can finish second, you can finish third, you can finish fourth, be in the Champions League, but you're not winning anything. At the end of the day, you're not winning anything. You're not going anywhere.
All right, well, to throw that back at you in that sense, we've won a trophy, let me lord it over you. When Arsenal were going through that, what's now known as a famous drought, which is, ironic that other clubs have gone longer. But when Swansea had won the League Cup, would they have been in a position to lord over us that, we've won silverware, it doesn't matter if you play in the Champions League?
No. We don't have a hatred towards Swansea. So this is what Tottenham and Arsenal fans do. Whenever we win something, you lord it over them. Swansea had their day out at Wembley. Those players will remember it forever. Brian Laudrup will remember it forever. So will the fans remember it. That's a memory you can't take away.
Michael Laudrup.
Michael Laudrup. That's a memory you can't take away from them. There is no way on earth a Swansea fan is going to turn around to an Arsenal fan or any of the big six teams and lord that over them. Because it's a done argument. You can't say anything.
But so then that leads to a thought process here of saying that actually, if you can't lord that over me, regardless of whether or not we're rivals or not, that you've won a trophy and I haven't, but I'm in a better position because I'm playing Champions League football. Surely that means that there's more weight on qualifying. So when Wenger said, top four's a trophy, how does that
No, I think that's rubbish. I definitely don't think if Wenger wins this trophy on Sunday, he's going to say top four is better than that. He's going to be loving it, as will all the players. Look, Swansea had a better season than us if they came out with one trophy and we came out with no trophies. If you remember in 92-93 when we done the league and FA Cup double, we finished 10th in the league. That season was amazing for us as fans. We done a cup double. It was stunning. It's not the cup that's the problem, it's us. Money has turned this game around. How have you ever known fourth place to be more than a trophy? Because why? You get in the Champions League.
Well, now we start to look at that, and we've had the conversation from the basis of the winners, and I did some research, and the winner of the League Cup only earns 100k. When you compare that to the Europa League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League, it's millions. So again, if you're a club, how much weight do you really put towards this? What is it bringing back to your club?
Yeah, the graphic shows that, but it's not just 100k. It's not just 100k. Whoever gets into the semis or the finals, they take 45% each of the gate receipt and TV money. Manchester United, when they won it last season, cleared well over $1 million for those semi-finals. They cleared well over $1 million when they won it. It's chicken feed for Manchester United, but it's still £1 million. £1 million is £1 million. It is.
So, we've spoken about the money, we've spoken about the winners, and we're talking about the competition and how important it is. And I touched on Champions League and qualifying for top four, even if you don't win it, it brings weight because you're in it. So, being in the League Cup, I'm going to say to you that forget the big boys and let's talk about the clubs in the Championship and in League One. They see this competition as a detriment and an obstacle to reaching the promised land. So again, if the big clubs are not, putting weight to it and they're fielding youngsters and the Championship clubs are making 9-8 changes per game for this competition, who is really valuing it? Who is seeing it as important?
Championship clubs are no longer Championship clubs these days. They're big time players. From time Championship clubs, players are getting 50, 60k. You got money, which means you got a squad. You should be able to juggle whatever competitions you are with your squad. And if you're not, number one, your recruitment is really bad. Two, your academy is really bad. I'll give Wenger his dues. He used the cup to blood in some great players, Fabregas, Van Persie, to name to name a few. But that was utilising the squad for a benefit of progressing in a competition. Championship teams should be able to do that now. Definitely the top 5 or 6 in the Championship. You got the top 6 in the Premier League that should be utilising their squad. I look at just someone like Pep Guardiola this season. In one breath, he's saying this competition is wasting players' energy. It's a no-go. But if you look at the teams he fielded in these competitions, you mean to tell me Manchester City need to be fielding Sterling, Aguero and De Bruyne for some of the ties that they played in the 3rd round, in the 4th round and others? They've got a squad. You could be blooding in youngsters and still progressing.
But I mean, looking at that, you've got you're talking about that and squad, and you know, championship clubs are not championship clubs anymore. And you know, I look at Bristol City as an example. Now they've fielded their full strength team to go against the likes of United with changes made, and they fielded their full strength team to go against Man City, which ultimately has resulted in, you know, no trophy for them, no big day out at Wembley for them. And that, for a team who actually have a genuine chance of making the playoffs and seeing it through, they're now going to have extra games, more fatigue, injuries to players, so on and so forth. You know, if that run stops them getting to the Premier League, what would have been better for them?
Well, you ask the manager. You ask the manager. A good cup run is a good distraction if you're doing bad. A good cup run breeds confidence for you going in. They would have got an untold amount of confidence from beating Manchester United. You was a football player once. You beat the best team in the land. You're going into your next game feeling you're 10 foot above everybody. They haven't dropped in the league.Ey're still fighting. They're still vying. They took Manchester City to the wire, the best team in the land right now. They took them right down to the wire. Those players are feeding off that cup run, that confidence. It can only do good for them. I don't see how that could be a detriment to them. Plus, not to mention, the gate receipt money they would have taken off that, which will help that club. We forget all these things.
So now, so with that being said, and you started to talk about, you know, the mentality that a cup run can bring, and, you know, I'm going to mention this. I know it's not the League Cup, but, you know, people often refer to Wigan winning the FA Cup and then subsequently getting relegated. And, you know, you can see on the graphic as it displays, but, you know, the likes of Swansea, who won the League Cup, they end up being barren for years after. Birmingham won the League Cup, end up getting relegated a couple of seasons later. Even the likes of Liverpool, as a contrast, what have they done since they won the League Cup?
Birmingham, when they won the League Cup, they got relegated. So they had their own things. That they weren't winning anything anyway. For them to win the League Cup and beat us was an achievement in itself. That's their glory land, their promised land.
Did that one help them?
Whether it helped them or not, they've won something. They're in the history books. Liverpool went through a lot after they won that League Cup. Went through a lot of takeover rubbish, a lot of different managers. Swansea, through their own fault, sacked their manager, Brian Laudrup, who, if you remember, bought in Michu. Michael Laudrup bought in Michu, bought in others. One didn't just win it, smashed it 5-0 against Bradford, wiped the floor with them, got into Europe and was doing fine. Then they sacked him. You look at Chelsea, if every time, I've got some information here, 2004 won the League Cup, Jose's first trophy, followed it up with the Barclays Premier League. 2007 won the League Cup, followed it up with the FA Cup. 2014 won the League Cup, followed it up with the Barclays Premier League. 2017 League Cup with United, won the Europa League. Special manager will take that win and feed it to the players to breed confidence. Steve Sidwell was interviewed by somebody and said Mourinho went in there from day one and said to them, League Cup, easiest way to get to Wembley, 5 games, we are winning it. He laid it down. Not many managers do that.
But, you know, so, you know, I find that ironic with Mourinho, you know, especially, you know, managers will say what suits them in the heat of the moment. Because you look at Mourinho and you're like, you know, if he's saying and preaching to his players, it's 5 games to get to Wembley, you know, win it, we want to win it, it's important. You know, he gets to the Community Shield, it's 1 game, you're at Wembley, win it. He doesn't win it, he dismisses it and hands his medal to the crowd, you know. So, you know, I take that from Mourinho with a pinch of salt, and I'll say, you know, if you've got to the final and you end up winning it, you know, we can look at some of the previous winners. You know, Leicester from 2000, you know, they ended up having relegations after that. Blackburn won it in 2002, they've had relegations. Middlesbrough won it in 2004, they've had relegations. Birmingham, Swansea battle relegations. So
these teams you're calling out, they never had squads to handle playing in Europe, playing in the FA Cup, looking after the league and doing the League Cup again. These were teams that were limited. For them to win the League Cup was a blessing in itself. For them to win an FA Cup would be a blessing. But they won the Cup, fair play to them, you got there, you won a trophy. The next step is managing that. They couldn't manage it. They couldn't manage it. They never had the squad to do it. If you look back at the last few winners, and you've got it on the graphic here, United top 16, Man City top 16, Chelsea top 16, Manchester City top 16, Swansea being the outward one, then we come back to Liverpool. You look at all the semi-finals from this year, it should have been Man United. Bristol City caused that wonderful upset. It was Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City. It's all the top 6 teams. It's the teams that have got a squad that can handle all of this, that will go far. And this is why I don't understand how this trophy can be ratted out so hard. It's not the best thing in the world to win, don't get me wrong. I'd want Arsenal to win the league or Europe. But at the end of the day, when May comes, I want to say we've won something.
So I'm gonna pose it to you then with that question, you know, where you say it's not the best, but you've got, as an English club, you've got the League Cup, the FA Cup, you know, a European competition if you're competing in it, and the league, and your respective league that you can potentially win. If I was to ask you to prioritise that...
100% I could do that, and you know what my answer would be.
And League Cup, yeah, so we don't need to go into it. So League Cup will end up being at the bottom.
At the bottom, 100%.
And now, as a result of that, you know, with the question being how important is the League Cup, does that mean that as far as I'm concerned, it therefore makes it a it's such a less priority that it's a nice to have, it's not a need to have?
What was the original question?
How important is it?
For me, as a fan, it's important to win. It's not more important than the league. It's not more important than the European Cup. It's not more important than the FA Cup. It hasn't got that prestige. It hasn't got that history. It's very, as you said to me off camera, it's embryonic. Yeah, it's got low life. It was only made up in the 60s. It's got low life. So it hasn't got all that history. But if you look back at it, there's been wonderful goals, wonderful matches, wonderful upsets. It has got something about it. It's a trophy at the end of the day. I would rather, and you've been through me with this as an Arsenal fan, I would rather Arsenal win trophies, no matter how low or how big they are, than every season say, we ended up 4th or in the Champions League. For 20 seasons, we've been in the Champions League. You ever seen us win it once? For 20 seasons, we've been coming out of group stages. We've ever done anything. You've ever seen any of that money that's coming into the club?
Okay, so with, you know, touching on that and talking about that, and, you know, I agree. I love winning. I love winning trophies. But as an Arsenal fan, you've seen lose a Cup Winners' Cup final, a Champions League final, an FA Cup final,
Birmingham League Cup final.
You've seen Arsenal lose every single final there is to lose, possibly out there. UEFA Cup, Cup Winners' Cup,
and they all hurt just the same.
So I was just about to ask you. So that Birmingham League Cup final,
how vexed were you?
That burns as much as losing in the last 12 minutes of the Champions League.
You ever want to lose a final? Naeem, when he banged in that goal, it was a rubbish European trophy. Everybody says it.
Well, I disagree.
Cup Winners' Cup.
I love that.
Yeah, but why? If you prioritise it, if I do the interview to you and you prioritise European trophies, it's the lowest one. So why is it so much that you love it? Because it's a trophy. It was a European trophy.
But you've got to remember as well, back then with European trophies, and I think it's a little bit different to the League Cup, is that, you know, back then when there was a Cup Winners' Cup, it was only the champions went into the European Cup. Second and third place went to a UEFA Cup, and your domestic cup winners went to the Cup Winners' Cup.
It was the lowest cup though. That's why it got scrapped. That's why it got scrapped. There was no more interest in it. There was no more interest. You loved it because it was a trophy. It was a European trophy. Arsenal back then, for you as a young child, we're in Europe. You're playing against Parma. You're playing against all these big stars. How come all of a sudden now the Europa League is a big thing to win? Why? Because you've been given the carrot of the Champions League. It's not the cup. I'll say this again. It's not the cup that's the problem. It's us. It's the football that's turned into a business. It's the money. It's taken the sting out of the competition. There are many things. When I was doing the research for this, there are many people that are coming out with ideas to transform this cup. Smart ideas. Things like, you have the blood, 5 youngsters. The big 6 teams will always play away.
And that is our time done. And it ends on a very nice note. So with that, if you've agreed with some of the things that have been said, reach out to us, let us know, comment. If, you know, you think that you've got different ideas and different opinions, get your friends together, have a conversation about it, bring this up and use it as a start point. Shane, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. And you'll join us on a future episode at some point?
100%.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you for watching, and tell your friends.